Hello and welcome to Upon Further Review here on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Thank you for joining us here on a semi-state preview, recapping the regionals. All area teams did well. Big 4-0 victory margin over the weekend and some dramatic scores, some dramatic plays, just what you anticipate in this type of year with the tourney. Walk-off field goals, Doot, you name it, alongside my friend Eric Dutkivewcz. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. Welcome to Upon Further Review. Just a couple quick things. If you like us on YouTube, hit it and subscribe to it, Apple, Spotify, you name it. But, Doot, we had a good little show going on here tonight. Going to get up with Mr. Sam. We call him Super Sam, but Sam Frick from the X world or the Twitter world, however you guys want to describe it now. He kind of handles a lot of around the northeast corner of Indiana with his addition to the coverage in the Fort Wayne Athletics, Summit Athletic Conference, NE8, all that good stuff. And then we're going to have the one and only Coach Rick Mosier from Adams Central, the Flying Jets. They just keep flying. I don't know. I was a little surprised by the score that they beat Carroll of Flora at Carroll of Flora on Friday night, Doot. But we'll come to that a little bit later. But we had the opportunity to get out and watch the Luers Bluffton game. What a game. Interesting game. Again, Luers, if they could just negate some of the mistakes they are making that ultimately is costing them, I hope it doesn't catch up to them, because right now, the last 2 weeks, they've let teams hang around a little bit too closely. And it's mostly been because of penalties and miscues and things of that nature.
Yeah, good to be on once again. And, it is crazy to see 4 teams from our area still in the semi-state round, Luers being one of them. Obviously, that was the 1380 game of the week that we had with Bluffton. And I think, this time of year it becomes tricky, because we saw on Friday night with a case of Leo and Adams Central where they are just a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Whereas a team like Luers, like letting those teams hang around a little bit, it gets tricky because – those penalties, those different things that rise up, that can cost you a ball game. And I think, now Bluffton was a very good team all season long. Luers has been too. These two teams play each other. They're 2 area teams themselves. And I think in that regard, it was a great game. But also too, it's like, the object is to win, is to play your best football of the year this time around of year. And a lot of teams out there are doing that. And for Luers, there's a lot of things to clean up, but also too, they're still playing and they have that opportunity to play, and they've taken on all comers and they've done their best, and here they are trying to get back to another state finals.
In that game on Friday night with Bluffton, their number quarterback, Bennettcourt, he got hurt. So they had to go to a true freshman in the most difficult time to have to do that in that ball game. And you got to think that he did not have a ton of reps throughout the week leading up to that ball game. He actually did pretty decently considering the circumstance. And, I know that it hurts right now for the Bluffton Tigers, but what Coach Kunkel's done there with their, rising to 2 back-to-back sectional championships, the future looks bright for them as it pertains to future opportunities that come their way. And then you watch the Mississinewa Snider game, and a game that, the 2 games that surprised me, and I talked about Adams Central Carroll and then Leo's dominance of Mississinewa down at Mississinewa. Those 2 games surprised me. I knew the Mississinewa and Snider game would be close. I even said that one could be decided by a field goal. Thank you very much. But you were telling me, because the last score we had heard, Snider seemed to have it pretty well in hand, but there were some changes that you said that, Mississinewa schematically just kind of took advantage of a few things.
Yeah, it was 10-0 after the first quarter for Snider, and then Mishawaka gets it to 10-9 at halftime. And so, this game, first of all, it ends 19-18 on a field goal,
Mhm.
45-yard field goal by Mang Tung from Snider. Certainly getting all those accolades and rightfully so, and sending Snider
Mhm.
there. But I mean, realistically, this was a barn burner of a game. Two clashes of styles of offense when you have Snider with the power eye, run the ball, then you
Right.
sprinkle in Piron as kind of that dual threat quarterback versus a Mishawaka team that is that flex bone offense, that ground and pound also. But I think what just kind of seeing the game from here, for watching some of the highlights and clips and streams, is that they kind of started doing a little bit of the play action, and I
Yeah.
think it got because Snyder's secondary was crowding the line of scrimmage,
Yeah.
and filling up the box, and then what they would do was they would shift a tight end in motion or something, and they were pulling like Brandon Logan, you know, off of the center field aspect of it and leaving that
Mhm.
field kind of wide open on a play action. So it burned Snyder a couple times, but I think ultimately there again, in a time like this, it's those little wrinkles. We talked about it, last year, Mishawaka, the coin flip. They wanted the ball when they got the coin flip. They did the onside kick after their first score. They run out a lot of the portions of the clock. This year, it's those extra little wrinkles where you're a team that rushes the ball all year, and then you start throwing out some passing plays
Right.
there. Um, for Snyder's side of it, we talk a lot about the field goal kick that wins the game, the 45-yarder to win the game, and here it is here. I mean, but leading up into this play, just look at that boot. For the people watching our videos, leading up into that play, Mishawaka kind of moved into more of a prevent style defense to kind of keep
Mhm.
but it wasn't a case of where somebody like Kieron Billingsley has that deep ball arm, but
Mhm.
they were leaving chunks of the field wide open for him, and so he was getting, 10, 15 yards at a time, and next thing you know, they're in that long field goal range, and they throw out the kickoff kicker, and it pays off. But I think it was a very interesting game down the stretch there, because just two clashes of style, but another great game, and like you mentioned, the Leo game was just a surprise in the sense that it was 21-0 into half, and then Leo just poured it more on in the second, and
Mhm.
it was a blowout city there.
Yeah, and congratulations to Snider for not spotting Mishawaka 21 points like they did last year in the first quarter,
Mhm.
and only had the ball the first three times only in the in
Yeah.
the game last year. So that was the win in itself. I know Coach Tippmann probably feels very proud of that fact. But going on to win at Mishawaka is a very difficult task. I mean, it's just one of those environments that it's tough to win in. And same thing with Mississinewa. And but why don't we get to our first guest tonight? He can maybe fill us a little bit in
Yeah.
on this Leo Mississinewa game. That's our man, Super Sam Frick. My man, he has the around the northeast corner, does some things for outside the huddle and Summit City Sports. I know that he's been working diligently and hard for the last couple of years. And not to say that it doesn't go unnoticed, Sam, but we always have been following you here from Upon Further Review and what we do. But welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you. And upon further review, I approve your compliment of my work.
I know there's a little inside joke with that one there. Well, let me ask you this. Were you down at the Leo game? Did you go down to Mississinewa? Or did
No,
you
I just watched it just from a distance.
Okay. Well, why don't you kind of fill us in a little bit on kind of what you thought of that ball game from your observation, even though I know it's on stream and sometimes that's a different take. But I think everyone would agree, not that we didn't think Leo could go down there and win. It was that it was going to be a tough task to go down there and win.
I think the start of the game was very important because the first half there weren't a lot of penalties and a lot of drives to begin with. So the key thing for Leo was to get that early lead, and then going for the 2-point conversion was a big statement for Leo that they were in to go in for the win in that game, because Mississinewa, those fans were hyped up. You can tell they were excited for this moment to win their first regional since 1985. But really, what it came down to was the last few moments of the first quarter and the early parts of the second quarter. Mississinewa, they were down their end on second and long, and on their pass from Quaderer, and went over the hands of Brock Schott into Dutkivewcz, and it was like a 20-yard gain for a first down. Brock Schott came within inches of potentially picking off that pass, and that could have been a pick six the other way and could have changed the entire complex of the game. It was still an 8-0 game by that point, and Mississinewa marched down to the field. They went to the second quarter. Ole Miss was in the red zone. They were feeling really good about where that drive was heading, and the Monday kids, Elijah and Andrew, they were moving the ball well. Dutkivewcz had a monster game, both as a wide receiver and on defense. He had a couple nice hits in that first half. But the key difference was right in that red zone coming out of the start of the second quarter. Leo had a couple big plays on defense. Brock Schott forced a sack on third down, and then they stopped Ole Miss on that 41-yard field goal, and that made a difference right there. And then Leo came back and scored to make it 14-0. And I would argue the other play that also changed the game and really put Ole Miss away for good was on Leo's last serious offensive drive. It was 2nd and 22, deep in their own end, because they had a false start, and then Ole Miss had a sack on the next play. And what happened was they went to Darius Carter. Darius Carter has had a great postseason, and his elusiveness, his speed, found a big hole, got a 20, 30-yard gain for a first down, and Leo was just getting first down after first down after first down. Brock Schott made a catch near the goal line, and eventually they punched it in, made it 21-0, and that was all she wrote for me.
Yeah, it sounded as if there was some commanding performances in it. We've talked about the game the previous week where against Bishop DeWanger, because that was going to be the litmus test anyway, just because, here we go with NE8 playing an SAC team with a lot of tradition. And we found out quickly how Brock Schott and Caden Hurst can overtake a ball game. And then you mentioned the Carter kid and what he's been able to do thus far. It just turned into them. I call them being on a mission. And that's kind of what ultimately happened down at Mississinewa with that particular game. Who were some players out, for Leo that also popped in that ball game? And we know that Caden Hurst and Brock Schott are the two main characters out there, but there are other kids that have been making some huge plays in the last couple weeks.
Oh man, there were a lot of good ones. And the only ones that really stood out to me, I thought Jasper had a monster game on defense. He had a sack earlier. He had a big tackle right in the red zone that basically set up that third down to allow Brock Schott to get that sack. The defensive line as a whole, I thought, was tremendous the whole game. I thought the pass coverage was tremendous, aside from a couple big bounces here and there. I thought they did a very good job of containing Dutkivewcz to the best of their ability. And, I thought Kyler Decker had a monster game at quarterback, considering, the moments in that game where Ole Miss was getting to Kyler Decker, and he made some nice senior plays down the stretch in that play. And even the Schlieb, Schlieb had a shoestring tackle for a sack, and we don't talk about him enough. I thought he had a nice game as well. To me, credit to the Leo defense. I mean, it's been good. They've been locked in the past 6 or 7 weeks, and you can see a team of destiny, if you would. And it's just been what a tremendous story for Jason Dorfler and that Leo Lions program. They've been building for this moment, even when Jared Souter was still there. Just happy for that community as a whole.
Super Sam Frick joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Sam, the Snider Panthers, in a familiar spot, getting back to a semi-state. They were there a year ago. They lose to Valpo. This time around, it's Maryville. They'll be hosting them out at Spooler Stadium. This team, coming into this year, the big question mark was the offensive side of things with the graduation of Luke Hoppert, Langston Lavelle, a lot of those guys. But they've shown that they really can refill the cupboard there at Snider. What are your impressions on this Snider team throughout the year, and really how they've been able to seize their own sort of momentum?
It's a very good question. I look at Snider in ways in which they've been resilient in a different way for Snider. They found different ways to win in key moments. We talked about Uriah Buchanan a lot, but the Snider Panthers have athletes across the board. We talk about Brandon Logan on defense. We talk about Rohrbarker. We talked about Kelso, right? The defense has been tremendous all year. Jerome Billingsley has had a very good season quarterback. I thought that game against Mishawaka really tested Billingsley down the stretch. We talked about that 45-yard field goal. Keep in mind that Mishawaka kicked a 34, I believe it's a 35 or 37-yard field goal with 30 seconds left in the game to give Mishawaka the lead. And Snider had to go down from their end, like around the 30-yard line or 40-yard line, and they have to go down to their end with the final 40 seconds of the game. And Snider had no timeouts left, and they had to, spike the ball to set up this 45-yard field goal. There's a lot of schools that would be grateful to have a 40-yard field goal to do it from 45 yards in a championship game. And man, just that kid, the kid for Snider that make that kick, the jubilation, the reaction from that game is just remarkable. Just take a look at this play. It's 45 yards. Games in the balance. Mishawaka had a tremendous game on defense. He makes that kick, and you can see those kids just running around. They just cannot believe what just happened. I watched the stream down the final second. I thought, what happened? And I said he kicked that ball right into the heart of Mishawaka as a whole. It was a string of pure silence. You could probably hear a drop in that building. That's how dramatic this win was for Snider. It's one of the greatest wins in the history of the Snider football team, and there's a lot of great wins in their program.
Yeah, absolutely. Another team, Adams Central. It's been business as usual for them all year. They're back. I think this will be the third straight matchup at semi-state with North Judson. This team is trying to get that team of destiny to get back to state to try and get Indy Lutheran again. Do we see that from Adams Central ultimately again this year?
I think AC will come in as a heavy favorite for sure. Coming in the semi-state game, this is their first home semi-state game since 2016. The last time they won a home in this round was the year they won their only state championship, which was 2000. Adams Central, I was a little bit nervous coming into that game because of the way it started against Madison Grant. And Madison Grant had a solid season in the CIC, but they scored the most points against AC all season long. I believe it was 14, and then AC ended up scoring 49 in a row. The Jets all season, I think there was been questions of how they were going to go about the regular season. And I think Michael Mosier has done a tremendous job of keeping these kids focused, because it's easy to coast through the regular season, but it's even harder to do so when you've been to state the past 2 years in a row, and the Indianapolis Lutheran, who's been dealing with their own challenges of trying to sustain that high bar of their own, and they've had a couple close games in their postseason against South Putnam and Providence, and so the Jets have had injuries all year. They've had challenges of keeping the focus in check. And I think Mosier's done a tremendous job. The seniors have been excellent all year, and they're winning games by committee. It's not just one guy. It's Curry, it's Tester, it's the Hamilton kids, it's Keaton Bloom, it's Zach Werman. He came out of his injury stint, whatnot. The guys up front have been tremendous the whole way through. And we're talking about maybe the winningest senior class in the history of Adams Central football. And sometimes I do wonder how they're preparing for Indianapolis Lutheran while still preparing for semi-state, because there are times where teams do prepare for a certain team while also preparing for the team they're going through next. And knowing that you're going to be probably going to be playing Lutheran again if you win this week, you just got to wonder how they're preparing for that game. And it'd be so cool if Adams Central would be able to win that state championship, but it's not easy. Indianapolis Lutheran is for real. They are stacked. They are the top dogs in 1A.
Sam, the other thing that, with coming up this Friday night is Northwood and Leo. And Northwood is another team that has, over the last couple of years have really had a program that resembles some of their programs back in the day. This will probably be another stiff test for the Leo Lions.
And these are two teams that know each other as well, because remember, they used to be in the same sectional for many years. Leo had some close wins when they were playing, just 4 or 5 years ago against Northwood. And Northwood traditionally is a power. They run the foot. They round and pound the football, and whatnot. And Nate Andrews, like his dad, great football coaches. But this year they've been more willing to throw the football, led by Roeder, I believe I think that's his last name. And they have the Georgia commit, Nitro Tuggle, and he is tremendous. He had a huge game against New Prairie. New Prairie went to state last year, so that tells you all about Northwood's potential. What's so interesting about this Northwood team was they did not play very well against Northridge in the sectional championship game, despite Northridge coming shorthanded. And remember, they lost to Northridge in their previous 2 meetings, both in the postseason last year and in the regular season. Northwood didn't look like the Northwood team that we thought as advertised, really, until the last couple of weeks. And I'm curious to see how Leo matches up with this Northwood team, because I do think Northwood up front, they're going to be a more physical team than what Mississinewa was. No offense to Mississinewa, they had a tremendous year, but Northwood has some advantages in the trenches there. And I also do think the pass defense, the pass coverage, especially with Lanny Hefner at corner, Camden Zeislav at safety, they're going to have a huge challenge of being able to cover not just Nitro Tuttle, but also the other receivers around Northwood, because all the attention is going to be on Nitro. But can Leo stop the other guys that could potentially be wide open as well? And again, it's going to come down to, can you apply enough pressure on Roeder to force those mistakes? And Northwood doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes when they play consistent football. But I think Leo's going to have a tremendous challenge of stopping the pass.
Well, here's a quick trivia question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Andrews, the head coach at Northwood, was and played for Ball State as the DB back in the day. Who was the coach that recruited Nate Andrews to come to Ball State? You're on the clock, Sam.
I feel like I should know this one.
He's in this room.
You.
That's right. Good job, my man.
I'm a quick learner.
Well, that's a good one. Hey, Phyllis, let people know kind of a little bit about what you're doing, and from the media standpoint with around the Northeast corner before we let you go here tonight.
I'll kind of do a synopsis of this. So around the Northeast corner, there's about 30 schools that I cover from all across all the sports. So the two conferences I mainly highlight are the NECC and the Northeast State. If you know the members of those conferences, you know who I'm covering pretty much. I also have added other teams recently. The ACAC has kind of been added in. I added in Bethany Christian and Lakewood Park and Whitco to kind of fill in a true presence of this 260. And so I'm obviously preparing for basketball season, and I've been kind of transitioning into basketball season the last few weeks. Getting some girls basketball content, some game of the week previews and whatnot. Trying to get some content there. Eventually, I'm going to transition over to basketball content for Outside the Huddle eventually, or at least that is the plan. I'm already in that transition with the other areas, but probably this week I'll be looking to get some content for boys basketball season. And man, I can't wait to get things rolling. But for now in football, we hope to get some teams going to Lucas Oil Stadium, including Leo, who has never won a semi-state in football, although Leo has been to state in many other sports as well.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Dude, you have anything else from my man, Super Sam?
Well, I just know that, we appreciate you coming on and the work that you do. It helps all of us out in the media, to be honest with you. There are a lot of great sites, people have heard of John Harrell, but Sam Frick, SamTheMan on Twitter and on Instagram, all those places around the Northeast corner, around the Northeast State, great resources for fans of those schools just to keep in touch. Not only just football and boys basketball and girls basketball, but baseball and softball and soccer. And I think it's a great resource. And it shows, Sam, that you love what you do. And that's where it starts. Where did this get started for you? How did you get involved and really kind of turn on to something like this?
Well, I went to school for journalism, so that was going to be a start. I did some PA announcing for 5 years. That helped with the whole interest of sports, especially with basketball, which is probably my big sport other than football. The whole thing of the blog started in 2018. I had some talks with people, and then I basically kind of went through kind of a process of trying to, question my judgment, question, what am I going to do with this blog? Is it going to be something that's worth it down the road? Because I wasn't going to get paid to do this thing. So it's like, if I'm going to do this, I better make sure better make sure I have the supports and make sure I'm able to know what I'm doing with my writing skills. And I thank God for having a tremendous talent to write and to be able to talk about sports. My family's been tremendous. I have colleagues that have been tremendous, who've been helping me along the way and helped me grow as a journalist of my own. And, the Lord's blessed me with that. And all praise comes to him first and foremost for anything with me. So I appreciate the kind words as always from you two.
Well, excellent. Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks so much for breaking it all down. There's so much out there still with 4 teams from our area left as heading into semi-state this Saturday. Will you be at any games this week? What's your schedule looking like?
Oh, it depends. I also work at Purdue Fort Wayne, so
okay,
I help out the college sports. So
oh wow,
it can get very busy sometimes, but yeah, I told people I wear many hats, so I guess that's what happens when you're wearing 4 or 5 hats at once. You're like, what's he doing now? It's like, yeah,
you got it.
That's yep.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and best of luck with your writing the rest of this football season and into basketball. We'll certainly be watching and watching the games on Friday, and we appreciate your knowledge and helping us all break it down heading into semi-state.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, Sam. That was Super Sam Frick from around the northeast corner. Outside the huddle, and he does some work with Summit City Sports as well, and Purdue Fort Wayne. A busy man, that Sam, but I tell you, he stays on top of it.
Yeah, he's done a good job, and like I said, just a word for those people that are maybe interested, or kids out there that are interested in doing something in this arena. Sam was one of those guys that just kind of started doing it, writing, participating in discussions online and such. And he's done a great job with everything, because like I said, have had a chance to notice his work on Twitter or X or however you want to put it, and then some other venues that he's been on. So he's done a good job with that. And we're waiting for Coach Mosier to come on, but he just texted me he's having some problems here. And so we may need to take a pause here to see if we can get him figured out. Worst case scenario, he'll probably have to call in. So we'll hang on with that right there. I know that we can take a break. We'll take it right here and see if we can get Coach Mosier to join us here in just a few moments. We'll be right back with Upon Further Review right after this. Welcome back to Upon Further Review. We thank Super Sam Frick for joining us and giving us some insight on all the games that he had covered this past weekend. And Eric, he does just a great job covering Northeast Indiana.
Absolutely. Tireless efforts from him. He does, all different sports, like you mentioned, all across the area, primarily the NEA and NECC. But like he mentioned, he's dabbled in now with the ACAC. He does a lot with the SAC through some of the other, media outlets around the area with Outside the Huddle and Summit City Sports and his own blogs as well. So great resource for a lot of teams just to keep track. And it's pretty cool, and no shortage of information from him, and we appreciate him doing it. So from moving on from Sam to our next guest tonight, we're thrilled to be joined for the first time all year to represent the Adams Central Flying Jets. We have head coach Michael Mosier from Adams Central. Coach, first of all, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, we're pretty excited because this new system that I bought actually is working. We can bring
after a while we finally got on.
Well, this is why we did it, because of those possible problems. And this system that I have has the ability to link you in, so I'm glad it worked.
That's great.
Well, Coach,
talk about this year for you. You guys, it seems, we kind of talk about it all year, business as usual for Adams Central. You guys get to another semi-state this coming Friday. run the table throughout the year so far again. This team, I mean, what you've been able to do and just be back at this point year after year. Just talk about your team as a whole and the program that you've been able to develop over the last couple of years.
Well, we've just with some really talented kids that love football, and that's really what we're down to. Do we have just a great group of seniors? But this group has been part of some really good teams the last several years, and it just really has been that the kids have they love football, they love playing hard. We have a great community down here that supports us. I think it's kind of football's a bit embedded into these kids, and they know what we expect. And I think, again, the continuity that we have and the coaching staff, all of us has been together for many years. And I think we all kind of think alike, and we all kind of coach alike, and the kids kind of feed off of that. And I think that's been a big part of our success, is just our ability to get our kids to believe in what we want them to do. And it's been fun seeing that happen.
This team this year, what makes this team different, Coach, from maybe years past, or is it in a continuity kind of some of the teams that you've put out there in the past couple of years?
Yeah, this team is different. There are some similarities with a few teams of the past. I mean, we kind of run the same offense. We run the same defenses. We kind of put kids into positions that kind of match their abilities. But one thing I would say about this group is they just really love to play together. They're a great group that are great competitors. These are kids that have played for several years on these teams. So the experience, I think the experience is great, and they just love to win. This group is easy to coach. They want to do everything that we want them to do. They're not perfect in any way, of course, but they do what we want. I think that's similar, but yet different to some of the teams we've had in the past.
Yeah, Coach, let's talk a little bit about your offense. Now, you're not, into the quote unquote spread offense, but in some of the things that you do philosophically, what do you call what you run there at Adams Central? I've called it I call it the flex bone. Some people call it the single wing, double wing, triple wing, chicken wing. I don't know, but I guess fill us in and the audience in, and philosophically what you run as an offense.
It's a blend of a lot of things. If you look at it, it's similar to the wing tee. We do a lot of similarities with the wing tee teams. Mm-hmm. If we have a name to it, it goes back historically. We run the Grambling offense. It's a hybrid of the old Grambling system that Rick Minnick ran for years. It's if you look at Rick's offense compared to the offense we run now, the terminology, we still use a lot of the old terminology, but we didn't have a double wing set in those days. We had kind of a little bit of a T look sometimes and an off wing set, but we officially like to call it the Grambling, but it's a complete hybrid. And I would say we're probably more like a wing tee offense than anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of what I would have classified it as. So when when we've had you a couple of times, I've always said, well, maybe I ought to ask what he calls it, because I'm up here saying it's the old, what they call flex bone, or, things of that nature.
Scrambling a good term, because you got the handoff there, but we also run the down quite a bit. We run a lot of ice. We run some counters. So I would say I would classify us more as a wing tee than anything.
Okay.
A hybrid wing tee.
Let me, and this question here, because, being a former football coach, I've always had a admiration for the wishbone and some of the technical aspects of those offense. Even that the service academies have ran, and that's usually, maybe they're undersized and they don't have the big, strong bodies, and philosophically you're trying to get them into a one-on-one position and then, spring one in here. Some of the flip side of that, some people say, well, you can never win a championship or a state championship running these type of offenses. And here you are just rolling them up. Have you ever had that question asked of you, or have you had people say, yeah, coach, you really need to get with the times? And we gotta put the shotgun in and 4 receivers and throw it all over the yard.
It's very interesting because you would think that's the case, but I don't. Our philosophy is not that. We feel like we can win championships, and our system allows us to do that. I really believe that we have a shot to win the state. It's a goal that we have, and if we're able to be successful against North Judson this week, we feel like we can do it with our system. I mean, it's a hybrid. We can. We're not against the pass at all. And we may have to pass more, this week or next week than what we have. But I think our system works for us. I love it because it's a balanced look. Teams have to prepare for us differently than what they have to prepare from spread teams. So many teams are spread teams these days, and not everybody knows how to defend the wing tee. And so I think it's an advantage for us to do that. We're a 1A school, and it's hard to find those receivers and quarterbacks that you're going to need for that spread offense. Whereas our offense, we can pinpoint different kids, and with their skill sets, we can plug them in a lot of different ways. So I think for us anyway, this works the best. And it's just kind of our philosophy to pound the ball as much as we can, and if that's working, we drain clock and we can score points. And if we have to go into the air, we can. I say this all the time. Someone came to our practice and watched us practice, I think they would be shocked at the number of times that we pass. I mean, we work on our we work on our pass game offensively a lot, because you just don't know when you're going to need that. Now, of course, we are very repetitive in practice as well on all of our run plays. We work hard on our blocking schemes. I mean, we spend a lot of time, and we are very, very particular and meticulous on how we block kids. And so that's something, we take a lot of time on that, but we spend a lot of time passing the ball too, just because we don't know when you're going to need that. So it definitely, when we look at our offense as a hybrid, I think we definitely are, but to say that we can't win championships with this outdated, offense, I would venture to differ with that school of thought, because I think it can still happen. I mean, you look at some of the 6A teams. Who is that runs that? Center Grove. Center Grove. They run. Offense is a lot like ours in a lot of ways, and they're doing it at that level.
And
so
Mishawaka.
it's just Mishawaka, exactly. They run that, so it is possible, and I think it's the beauty of football.
Yes.
I think there's so much adaptations and so many different schemes. It's what makes football such a great game.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much variations. I don't know that you can get any other sport the type of variations that you can get in football. And I think it's what makes people so love the sport. It's so dynamic, and there's so many different ways of doing things and so many different philosophies that I think that's a big part of it.
Well, before I send it back to Eric here, I just wanted to comment, because I've had these questions asked of me over the years. And I say this to a lot of people: they don't realize that the spread offense evolved from the wing tee flex bone mentality. Because if you really look at it and study it, it has evolved from that concept. But Eric,
and you see a lot of sports. I'm sorry, you see a lot of spread teams, they run the ball a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's still a goal is to run the ball. And I it's just in a different format.
Buck sweep.
Yep, exactly. It's there. It's there in another form.
That's right. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Michael Mosier, the Adams Central head coach, joining us tonight on Opponent for the Review. Coach, you move on to semi-state. Third straight year you'll be playing North Judson.
Yeah.
That familiarity. Just talk about that matchup. What you guys are planning for against them. They play against a lot of bigger schools. They sit at 9-4 on the year, but have kind of mowed their way through the postseason as well for this matchup. North Judson, hosting them as well. Just talk about that aspect and playing them again, and really what's been successful for your team against this team in the years past.
Well, I think it's interesting that for the past 3 years now we're going to face each other, and I think it speaks volumes for both programs to get there. It is extremely hard to get to the semi-state. And for them to get it 3 years in a row in us, I think that's a great testimony to like like we're just talking about, two run-based power game football teams. And for us to be there is a great accomplishment. We have a lot of respect for North Judson. They know us by now, and we know them. Their head coach is a good friend of mine, and we coached together in the All-Star game a couple years ago, and have so much admiration for what they do. They do it right. Their kids are a lot like our kids. You're going to have two teams that are very physical. You're going to have two teams that like to, use misdirection and power to move the football. You got defenses that attack and are, you try to use strength and power, and that's what we're going to have. They have a really good system. Kind of like we like to talk about our system and the culture of Adams Central. They have that too at North Judson, and they're going to come in here and they're going to be ready to go. And we have to play our best. The good news is we know what they're going to do, but the bad news is it's hard to stop, and they're going to say the same. So it's going to be a battle. Both teams are physical. We're really excited about a great opportunity, and our kids have to come ready to play.
Certainly. The defensive side, we talked about the offense. You guys just giving up 5 points a game. I think total for the year, 65 points. What is it about your defense year after year, kind of, that has made you guys so dominant in that realm?
Well, I think, again, it starts with coaching. We have a great defensive staff, Coach John Hammond and Tyler Roach and Mitch Hill and my dad, Rod Mosier. These guys do an outstanding job of knowing their opponent. I think the one thing that we can that I always enjoy as the offensive guy, I always feel that by the end of the week, we know our opponent, and I feel confident that our guys are going to put our guys in the right position. So that's a big aspect of it. Is I really feel our defensive coaches do an outstanding job. Secondly, I think our kids just play physical. They play a little bit defensively with an edge about them. They play with confidence, and I think that just that helps. They love to play fast. They tackle well. We spend a lot of time on that, getting our kids in the right position. And it just kind of comes with our culture on defense. If you're going to play defense, these are the type of attributes that we expect you to have. And I know that Coach Hammond does a great job of finding the right kids with the right attributes that he wants to play. And if you can't be tough, you can't be coachable, you can't play. And I think that's just what makes our defense so strong.
Coach, let's we've talked philosophy here a little bit and got educated on how you guys do things, but let's talk about the Jimmies and Joes, as you would say in football. Keegan Bloom, pretty good player.
Yeah, he is.
Tester, pretty good player. Talk about some of these guys that now are, these kids have been playing quite a few years for you. And
Right.
this is their finale, I guess you could say, to their masterpiece. But talks about some of these kids that have done so many good things for you over the years.
Well, yeah, I think it starts with Keegan. I mean, Keegan has been starting defensively for us since his freshman year, and then came in his junior year last year and was our fullback. So Keegan has just been outstanding. A quiet kid, doesn't have an awful lot to say. Sometimes we don't always know exactly what he's thinking at times because he's quiet. And he sometimes we have to get him going sometimes because he just is that type of a kid. But once he turns it on, and he's just been outstanding for us. Another one, again, Jack Hamilton has been a huge part of our success this year. Unfortunately for him, he's been behind a very good group of quarterbacks. I mean, Ryan Black had been starting 3 years for us, and if Ryan Black had graduated the year before, Jack would be a 2-year starter for us and would have done an outstanding job. But I think he's been really the strength for our offense this year. He's just so smart. He's such a competitor. Just have a lot of confidence that he's going to make good decisions, and he wants to do well, and I think that's really contributed a lot to him. Another big one is Trevor Curry. I mean, Trevor Curry is probably one of our most versatile players. I mean, for 3 years now, he's never come off the field. I mean, he starts defensively at defensive end. He's our tight end, split end. He's our kicker. He's our punter. I mean, he does absolutely everything, and I think his abilities on both sides of the ball have just been outstanding for us. He's Jack's favorite receiver, and he just has a way of getting open and has great hands and has some great speed and has been just a big part of what we do. I think too on the offense and defensive lines, I mean, 2 stellar seniors have been Lane Langwich and Zach Worm. These guys have are big solid rocks on both ball and I don't know where we would be without Zach Worm, and he's just a game changer on the defense and offensive line. I mean, Keegan is only as good as Zach Worm is, and I think that's a lot to say because we use Zach in a lot of different ways, and we use Lane in a lot of different ways too. To be able to move the ball and be able to stop and plug holes defensively. I mean, I would say that with those 2 guys in there defensively, teams have a really hard time running up the middle, and I think that's been a big part of our defensive success. So those guys have been outstanding for us, and Tester too has. Unfortunately for Ryan, he's been injured the last few weeks, and he's been nursing a back problem. Tester is not Tester for us, and that's really been heartbreaking to see that for him because he's just such a great athlete, a great kid, and he has not been able to do what he had hoped to do throughout this year. And again, it's just one of the things about athletics. You're never guaranteed anything, and but when he's on, and he's had some great games for us this year, and we're hoping to again. He's starting to feel better, and so last game he played some, and hopefully we'll play a little bit more, and hopefully we can go down to Indianapolis and he can really help us out. So those guys have been just a pillar for this team. All those guys have been a part of this for the last few years, and they're very special. They're very special kids.
Well, I just quick comment here, Eric, and then you can finish up with Coach. But we were talking about throwing the football, and I've been watching some of your highlights from your game against Carroll, which I was quite surprised of that ball game in terms of how much you guys controlled it. But I think Hamilton threw for 100 and plus some odd yards and had a huge 46-yard touchdown pass, and so those people out there think that don't think that Adams Central can't throw the football. Keep thinking that, because Coach wants you to think that way for another 2 weeks. Another 2 weeks.
That's right.
Bring those safeties up.
Exactly.
Bring those safeties up.
Don't give that secret out now, because we want to lull you to sleep, and then we can pick you off there a little bit. So we'll see.
All right. Well, Coach Mike Mosier from Adams Central, thanks so much for joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Best of luck Friday night at the semi-state as your Flying Jets take on the North Judson San Pierre Blue Jays out at the landing strip. And see you down the road. Hopefully we see the Adams Central Flying Jets at the state finals. But great season, and we'll catch you down the road.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
That was Michael Mosier, the head coach of the Adams Central Flying Jets, and
it
really
worked.
Good conversation. It worked. Modern technology, the old phoner interview with the old picture on the full screen.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of.
I should have pulled the. I should have pulled the
producing there too from my old days. But
I thought maybe we should pull the video of some of these clips of Hamilton actually throwing it as we were talking there. But I'm glad it worked out that way. That's why I got this system, because you never know when technology may not work the way we hope it works for some people that try to get on our on the podcast through the video. So worked out good. I got a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Mosier and what he has done. And I think he's one of the best coaches within the Northeast Indiana area, just because of he takes kids and puts them in positions that allows them to have success, and not all coaches do it like he does. And he's just, you know, they just reload. I mean, I haven't seen a law in them for 3 years.
Yeah. And you could tell he's a social studies teacher. He had quite a bit to say.
Yeah.
He knows the history of his team, because we could have sat there another half hour talk, because, you know, you think of what he's been in there since 2009. He's won 140 games in 15 years, 48 losses. And I think back-to-back semi-state. So this is their third state semi-state appearance, going for the third straight state finals. You know, they've won a couple regionals in addition to that, a couple other sectionals. Of course, the ACAC, Brett Rump will tell you the ACAC stands for Adams Central Athletic Conference, the way that they've been able to dominate that. And on top of it, the kids, you know, it's a 1A school, multi-sport athletes. Some of these guys, you look at this, you wait till wrestling season and see, you know, these guys, how that crossover, where a lot of those kids are really good athletes, really strong kids, you know, work hard, farmers, those kind of things that get up early and do a lot of that. And so I think it's really, you know, a testament to what they've been able to develop there over the years. You know, this was Adams Central as a team throughout the years that has, you know, they won the state title in 2000. Yeah. And you know, have found that success from time through the regionals and things like that. But, you know, in the last couple of years, it's really hit their stride and reload. And that's what's great about it, is that they're really good. And really, it's made the other teams around them better, because now we're talking about how good the ACAC is every year. South Adams is another one that got to state a few years back. In fact, the winner of that sectional that Adams Central is in, I think it's 1A sectional 44, has been the state runner-up the previous 3 years, and in trying to get back for a fourth straight state championship appearance. South Adams was in there 1 year. So, you know, it's really good, and we appreciate him. We're glad that we finally could get somebody from Adams Central on it. You know, it's just another one, and they deserve to be on, Coach, because they've been doing for the last, and you go back in time too. I think, you know, I don't have it all in front of me, but if you look at, like, you know, John Harrell, some people out there will know what that is, the website that kind of track a lot of the state records. But it's like, you know, 5 years, you know, the win-loss record for a team for 5 years and 10 years and 15 years. Adams Central's like in the top 3 wins for the all schools in the state of Indiana over the last 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years.
Right.
Indianapolis Lutheran also being one of those as well, who's kind of been the other team from the South that has made the state finals the last couple of years. So it's been interesting to see. They got a really good team. We wish them the best of luck this Friday.
And their defense. Don't forget their defense. Their
Yeah.
defense has been outstanding. And last week, I think they held Carroll to only 200 yards or something of that nature. So they've got it rolling this year, and they're doing it with defense as well.
Yeah, 14 points they gave up to Madison Grant. That was the most they gave up all year at regional. They scored 56 in that game. So nobody has come even close to beating. I think the closest game looking at this was the 24-0 over Bluffton was their closest game. That's wild. And Bluffton was really good all year. So anyway, well, like we talked about, Coach, 4 teams remaining from our area at semi-state this weekend. Quickly, we can kind of go through these games. 5A, Maryville at Snider. Maryville beat Valpo to get to this game. Snider edges Mishawaka and gets to host. Snider falls in overtime a year ago at semi-state, back here again, trying to get back to the state finals. This should be a really good game, as they all will be come this Friday.
Well, Maryville is, I think they are 10-2 overall this year. I'm trying to see if there was any common opponents that maybe they had played, but they play in a tough conference up there in the kind of the region of Indiana.
Yeah, they're in the Duneland Conference.
Yeah, the Duneland Conference.
No common opponents. For Maryville, I think the big thing that stands out is they beat Valpo a week ago in the regional, and they avenged a regular season loss, one of their 2. So their 2 losses, Crown Point, which is in the 6A semi-state, which I guess upset. They beat Penn. I guess you could say that's an upset. And then their other loss was to Valpo in the regular season. They avenged that loss at regionals, but a team that is really looking good too.
They're very similar to Snider offensively. They've got a quarterback by the name of Pope. There are a spread offense, but he can run it and throw it. They got a sophomore tailback. That's the one. Johnson is the kid's name. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry. The quarterback, Pope, 6.9 a carry. And the Pope kid's completing about 58% of his passes on the year. So this will definitely be a test for that Snider defense, but they're going to see an offense that they're familiar to seeing, like they did against Carroll and some other schools throughout the year. But you can expect that their defense is pretty darn good as well overall when you think about it. So this is a game too, Doot, that, man, it could come down to the last second. And as of right now, this will be our 1380 game of the week out there at Spooler Stadium. So we're looking forward to covering it. Unfortunately, my partner, Brett Rump, will be with Purdue Fort Wayne out in Arizona for some basketball.
Unfortunately, right?
Yeah, for some basketball. And usually when he leaves, we get blizzards. But
yeah, that should be a good one.
Yeah, Caleb Hatch is going to fill in and call the game with myself, and but that should be a dandy of a football game.
Yeah, 3rd time that Snider and Maryville have met all time. All 3 times. This will be the 3rd time at semi-state, at Spooler Stadium. Snider has won the previous 2 to head on to the state finals. 92, they won state. 2012, they lost state. Those are the 2 previous times. 4A, we talked about it with Sam Frick. Northwood at Leo. Leo is rolling Darius Carter. They're the running back who's picked up the load with some of the injuries to some of the Lions. He's in there now, that sophomore running back. But just playmakers all over. They welcome in a very good Northwood team. Another dandy of a game. Like Sam said, former sectional games. These teams have played each other in recent years.
Yes.
This will be a fun one out at Leo Cedarville. this Friday.
And you got the big time recruits in this game. You know, Brock Schott's got multiple Power 5 type of offers. You got Caden Hurst, who's committed to Ohio, and
Tugs, I think they said. From,
Nitro or whatever.
Nitro,
yeah, called him. He's a commit to Georgia. So for Georgia to come up to Napanee, Indiana, and pull a kid away from Notre Dame and all the schools that are around here, that kid must be a player. So there's going to be some bright lights shining brightly there at Leo, but that's another dandy of a ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that should be a fun one. Georgia Bulldog commit. Nitro is his nickname. And Terrion Tuggle is his name. So look for him. He'll be all over the field.
He's a wide receiver, right?
Wide receiver and quarterback, they list him as, but definitely from the wide receiver aspect. So that should be a good one. In Class 2A, we have Bishop Luers hosting Lafayette Central Catholic. Battle of the Knights. Crazy enough for this coach, first time these two teams have ever met. These Catholic powerhouses in football in the state of Indiana, largely because Lafayette Central Catholic has pretty much been in 1A, but they've had so much success there now in 2A. I think they won state in 2019. And so first ever meeting between these two in football. This should be a good one in the sense that these are two tradition-rich programs finally getting to meet up for a chance to go to the state finals. Yeah, and
they've had their share of state title journeys over the years. The big thing that's going to hit here for Bishop Luers is this Metzger kid, who's their quarterback, a junior. He's thrown for 2,500 yards on the year already, completing over 62%, 31 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. And so that in itself is amazing. And then their target big time wide receivers, Clayton, he's also a junior, 887 yards receiving on the year. So Bishop Luers defense is going to be challenged this week with a team that can throw it around a little bit. And they're a pretty big team. I mean, physically impressive football club for this level of play in some respects. So the Luers Knights are going to have their hands full on Friday night. And so they cannot afford to have mistakes and such in a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Lafayette Central Catholic has won 9 straight games after starting 1-3. Of course, their 3 losses, all back-to-back-to-back. Noblesville Guerin Catholic, Hamilton Heights, and West Lafayette, all 3A schools that are, I think, all in their conference. Yeah. I know West Lafayette won their division of the conference, as did Hamilton Heights. So, those teams in there, and then you throw Guerin Catholic out as Noblesville, which is a really good program as well. So they've been through the ringer and put up some good results and kind of come through the fire. And in that regard, similar to Luers because they play some stout competition. And we talked about it, 1A, North Judson at Adams Central, 2 similar offenses, 2 teams that have played each other at semi-state. This will be the 3rd year in a row. Adams Central trying to get back to state for the 3rd time in a row against North Judson. This one will be a ground and pound for the most part, but like you said,
really fast.
Mike Mosier doesn't want you to think that Adams Central passes the ball. So what can we expect, Coach?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. North Judson, I think, they've thrown it 76 times on the year, so that's not very much.
13 games.
Yeah, McDaniel is the quarterback. He's thrown for 632 yards, only completing 46%. But they have 2,000-yard rushers. Benson, who's a junior, he's got 1,400 yards, averaging 6.9 a carry. And then the quarterback, McDaniel, he has 1,020 8 yards a carry. And then the other one is Wilcox, another junior, 871 yards in rushing, 6.8. So you've got a three-headed monster there in the running game for North Judson that will challenge the defense for Adams Central. And we talked about this earlier. This game defensively is probably going to be the key component come Friday night at the landing strip with this ball game. But this one could be a really good ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. North Judson, which finds itself outside of the AP rankings in Class 1A, knocks off Indianapolis Park Tudor at regionals 44-26 to hand Park Tudor its first loss.
Yeah, I was just saying, Park Tudor was undefeated.
Undefeated top 5 team at regional. Now they go on the road, does North Judson to Adams Central to face another undefeated team. And coming into the regionals, the top 5 teams in Class 1A were all undefeated. So that gives you some idea of how good. But Providence lost to Indianapolis Lutheran, so 1-4, and then 2-3 played. So that left, and 5 lost. So we're down to 1, 2, and 12 and 14. So there you go. So yeah, it should be a good one there. These teams know each other. Should be a fun one. I fully expect that portion of Adams County to shut down about.
Oh yeah.
So
don't 3 o'clock.
Trying to get dinner at the diner before the game.
Lunch may be difficult.
Yeah, you might have to go to like Decatur or something to do that beforehand. So anyway, we wish all the teams good luck this upcoming Friday. 4 games, all in our area, all in the 260. We'll be out. 1380 will be out at Spooler Stadium for Maryville and Snider. You and Caleb, and it should be a good Friday night. Wouldn't it be nuts if we got 4 teams to the state finals?
It would be nuts and fun at the same time. But
a lot of work for media folks.
That's right. But
it's spread over 2 days now.
Yeah.
I remember in 2002, real quick, 2002, Dwanger, Luers, and Snider all made it.
Yeah.
And it was like bang, bang, bang on one day. But nowadays it's spread out because they flipped but anyway, so we wish all the teams luck. Coach, we're out of time.
Unfortunately.
We want to thank Sam the Man, Super Sam Frick, for coming on to share his knowledge, and then also Michael Mosier, the head coach of the Adams Central Flying Jets, for coming on. We thank everybody for joining us tonight. Good luck to all the teams. We'll see you next Friday night as we look ahead to the state finals. Next Wednesday night, I should say, for the state finals on Upon Further Review. So long, everybody.